Good day, good evening. My name is Chris Song from Radio W.O.R.K.S, New York, and we're here with Marina and I. Hello, everyone.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Radio W.O.R.K.S World. And we've never been to New York. So now it's over to you, Chris. Tell us, what is your story? What brought you where you are right now?
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share my passion, my vision. Well, I actually bumped into to your Facebook, and I was actually connected with you through mutual friends. And um, I always had, something in my heart to be able to write my own story. And I actually met you on Facebook, and I said, "Wow, this is something that could be possible." Always had friends and mentors say, "Chris, you should share your story," and so here I am. Here I am today.
Wow, Chris. So tell us, what made you the person you are right now?
Well, I guess I could say it's from all the falls, right? All the cuts and bruises on my knees, and I was just able to shake it off and be persistent, keep fighting, and that's where I'm at today.
I know you have a beautiful family, and now they gave you a little bit of space for yourself and our listeners to connect. And if you could go back into your life to a point where everything changed for you, or maybe to a situation where you decided to change the way things were.
hmm Yes, I definitely want to give the kudos to my wife for being with the two kids now, so I'm able to spend time with, you and the world today. But she was actually the game changer for my life as well. When I met her, I always had the vision and the passion to just really change, give back to the world. And when I met her, she was the driving force, if you will, the encouragement, the power that I needed to really step out of my comfort zone and really just move forward. Yeah.
So tell us, Chris, how is your life looking right now? What's happening? And it's so exciting that you want to share with our listeners.
Yes. So I definitely, I had a really rough childhood. My father leaving when I was just 14, 15 years old, which is really the most important time, when you're going into to high school. And when he had left, I had, and so I thought, I had older friends and some people around me that were just, I would say, not the best people, and I was really hanging out with, gangs and being involved with a lot of bad people, you know. And I remember being one of those guys, never um, appreciating life and didn't have the father figure to really correct me and give me a kick in the tushy, And um, instead of really hitting the books, I was really just, out on the street, hanging out with the wrong people, doing stupid things. And a lot of my friends, they're locked up to this day. Um, and yeah, and that was the hard times. And when he had left, we had absolutely nothing. It was me, my brother, my mom, and we went from a nice neighborhood in Bayside, Queens, to a really rough neighborhood in the Bronx, and you know, not a good neighborhood. There were four murders on the corner of my block in the span of 3 years. It was just a really tough neighborhood, and There still, I I had bad people around, bad friends, mentors who would not give me the right way or um, the good word of advice, but rather um, I was indulging in partying and drinking and drugs around me, and not a good sight, at such a young age. So I guess that was really hard for me, and but luckily I was given an opportunity when I was 16 years old. A friend of mine, really close friend of mine, he had offered me a job as a stockbroker trainee, and I had my first gig on Wall Street when I was 16. Um, and I remember it was cold calling. I had to come into work to make 700 to 1,000 dials a day, and I was cold calling, um, getting coffee for people, and just becoming their runner. And that was my first opportunity. Um, and I worked for a gentleman. His name is Sean Zaremski. Rest in peace, Sean. I heard a couple years ago that he committed suicide. Um, and I did the Wall Street thing for about 3, 4 years, and it was the first time, God sent an angel for me. Um, the firm was called Bryn Mawr Securities, and Bryn Mawr Securities was owned by a gentleman called his name was Vinny Lingella Jr. And if you folks know out there, Vinny Lingella Sr., his father was the acting crime boss of the Colombo crime family. It was the Italian mafia. And I had no idea. I would just come to work, young kid with a whole lot of drive, and I would come to work and just make my dials and do what I was told. And one day on my way to work, I saw him on the front page cover. I used to pick up the New York Post every morning to work, and I saw my CEO on the front page cover of the New York Post, Vinny Lingella Jr., involved in a $50 million stock fraud. So, they closed the FBI came, they busted the doors. Luckily, I wasn't at work, and here I am on my way to work the next day, and I see him. I see him on the front page cover. So I called Sean at the time, and he said, "Yes, the feds came. The owner did something bad. Just go home, and I'll call you. I'll be in touch in the next few days." And surely, he called me, I think 3 or 4 days later, and he said, "Chris, they changed the name of the firm. The firm is now called Magnum Securities, and we're going to be in the World Trade Center." So the World Trade Center, it was Building 2, and I believe it was the 76th floor of the World Trade Center. And, rest in peace to all the souls for the World Trade Center. Um, the first time God sent an angel I spoke about a little earlier was I left on August 13, 2001, 3.5 weeks before 9/11. And my uncle called me. I'll never forget this day. And my uncle was in subcontracting, and he was what they call a storm chaser. They would move with their crews, and they would go from state to state, chasing storms, and wherever they had tornadoes or hurricanes or hail. And he called me and said, "Chris, I really need your help. There's a lot of business, there's a lot of work, and I can't really speak the language because English was a problem for my uncle. And I need your help. And so nothing was really going for me too well in the stock market. And so, I took a leap of faith and I said, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to go, uncle. I'm going to come and help you. He really needed my help. And so I went, and thank God I did, because that was the first, the hairs still stand up when I talk about it to this day. uh, Time. Yeah.
Wow, Chris, I could hear in your voice all these emotions coming back and being present right now. I could hear in your vibrations, and I don't want to make it more painful than is already. But tell me how that changed everything for you.
So even then, I was still young. I was still in my early 20s. I was still hanging out with the wrong crowd, partying. And, even though my dad left and there was a hole at home, there was a need, um, I still went back to the streets. I still went back to my friends, to fill that hole. And um, it still wasn't my turning point. I still desired to, the most important thing was, what are we doing Friday night? What are we doing Saturday night? Where are we going to party? And still, to me, it wasn't the turning point. And then from there, I took a big break. I was in St. Louis for about a year, and most of the work kind of dried up. So I came back to New York, and I just said that maybe it's not my calling. We're crushing people, and I hear, the stockbrokers, investment bankers, and the traders lie, manipulate, to have these investors send millions and millions of dollars, and it's their life savings, and really they're just gambling their money. And I just said, you know what? Maybe this is God telling me this is not for me. And so I went into mortgage bank. I went into mortgage banking. I started at a brokerage, and from there, as you know, the whole subprime crash, um, and even still, I was selling mortgages. I made a lot of money, very young. Um, Driving the fancy cars and going to these parties, and I was still being stupid. Still, the core. My mom always told me, "You are who you surround yourself with." Right? You heard this saying, "Birds of the feather flock together." Right? And the birds that I was flying with, um, made me who I am. And so I thought. And so I said, okay, I need to surround myself with better people. Um, they always say, you know, you can't be the smartest people in the crowd, right? You heard that saying before? Um, Marina, have you heard that saying?
Yes, actually, I made my own mantra not to
Uh,
be the smartest person in the room ever, no matter what.
right?
So I always have this. I'm so thirsty to know more, to be more, and what is that is missing most of the time in our lives, in my personal life, is inspiration. So inspiration is in short supply, and unless you are with the right people who could inspire you to be where they are right now, and just go with the flow, but a great flow of life, is very hard to make any progress. And
Yeah.
somehow You are so right, Chris. I mean, going through everything you've been and going from jumping from void to void and still having that desire to be more, to go above all this uncertainty, above all these um, facts that you're facing each day.
Mhm.
Because Wall Street is a place where um, it's always about money, it's never about people.
Right.
And perhaps you had that need to get out of the boiler room and go into a room where you weren't the smartest room, and go into a room where people were dreaming, or people could connect, could inspire you. So what is the next room after the boiler room? What happened?
Right. So after the boiler room was the mortgage room, right, which is the subprime crash room. And I thought that room would be somewhat elevating. And I mean, looking back, it was a chapter in my life, I guess, that I needed. Going to your first point, and I did that, but again, I was just really looking for um, to make the fast dollars, right? Instead of genuinely helping people and going out of my way to really be of service, I would just think, um, how can I make the most amount of money? Uh, a lot of times, these people, they couldn't afford the mortgage, right? And when I was in the business, they had what they call a stated program. And it was where the homeowner could state their income. And I'm like, what do you mean they could state their income? And they said, yes, Chris. They could say that they make, 200,000 to qualify for a mortgage. And I said, what? There's no proof. There's no verification. They said, no. You just state your income. As long as you have a 700 FICO score and a job, you could pretty much get, half a million, $1 million mortgage. And so that whole, um, within the banking system, it caused the whole subprime crash. And we're still recovering from it today. But that's when, again, it was a chapter in my life that I just thought about myself. I thought about, how I could make the fast dollar. Um, and the same crowd that I had on Wall Street was the same crowd that I had with me in the mortgage industry. And so still, I have not um, gotten out myself out of the circle, if you will. And and then the turning point is the whole mortgage crash. And then I did real estate after that. I joined real estate in 2007, which was at the brink of the mortgage crash. And it was the worst time. I mean, looking back, it might have been the best time, but it was the worst time to really learn mortgages, real estate, I'm sorry, and start a career, and feeding my family with real estate. Just a tough time for the economy. And and this is where I met my wife. Uh, I worked on 163rd Street in Flushing, New York, and my wife worked on 162nd Street. And she was just a stranger to me at the time. And I was waiting for my lunch in front of a pizzeria on 162nd Street, and I saw this beautiful, beautiful, angelic woman walk by me, and she had iced coffee in her hands, walking to her job, and I saw her go by, and I was just, my mouth dropped, and I was just like, wow, this beautiful woman. Um, I want to say something. What should I say? I'm a little, nervous, and I couldn't say anything, right? And she just went into her job, which was a printing shop, and I said, oh, maybe she works there, you know, and I went back to work, and I was talking about her all week, and all my coworkers were like, "Who is this girl? What's going on?" And one of the coworkers, her name is Sara too, and my wife's name is Sara. Sara was like, "Hey, let me reach out to her. I'm good at connecting with people, and I think, I could get you a phone number." And I said, "Hey, what do I have to lose, right?" Um, so so I did. I let her reach out. She called the printing shop and she said, "Hey, that girl that walked in with the iced coffee about a week ago with the long hair?" And she, she, she started describing my wife, and then they're like, "Yeah, okay, and what do you want?" And she said, "Well, I have a friend, I have a coworker, and he's really interested. He's really interested, and he wanted to speak to her." And um, they were they were like, "No, we're kind of busy right now, and no, not right now." And they hung up the phone, and she called like 2 or 3 times, and she kept calling and calling and calling, and they started labeling me. All her friends at work, they started calling me the psycho guy, right? They're like, "Oh, the psycho." So, and after like the third or fourth time, I said, "You know what? This is not working. Let me try, And so I called, and the owner picked up. The owner picked up, and she's like, "Hello," and I said, "Hi. My friend Sarah has been calling, and I'm really sorry. I should have manned up, and I should have called myself. Um, but I seen her, and I just, I connected, and I just want to see if I could speak to her, or if I could have a minute with her." And she's like, "You're that psycho guy, right?" And I said, "Yeah, that's me." So she said, "You know what? Come on over right now. I want to see who you are." You know, and and I was so nervous. I can never forget. I had the sweaty palms, and I walked over, um, and um, and the first thing she did was, um, she interviewed me for like 5 minutes. She asked me for my business card, my driver's license, and she said, "Did you drive here?" And I said, "Oh no, but my car is actually right on this block," because we're a block away. And she said, "Where's your car?" And I said, "Oh, it's right there." And she followed me to my car. She wrote down my license plate. Okay, she was so serious, and she interviewed me, and she's like, "Okay, I don't think you're psycho. I think it's okay. If you speak to her, because Sarah was staying at the owner's house. My wife was a student at Texas Arlington University, and she was here on a 3-month internship doing graphic designing at this printing shop. And it was her first day on the job when I saw her walk down with the iced coffee. And in a Korean business, it's usually customary that the newcomer does, the dirty work, right? The stuff, they go send the coffee, they take out the garbage. And it was her first day of work. And that was the day that I saw her. And so she felt a little bit, like the chaperone. So that's why she was protecting her, and that's why she interviewed me, and that's why she said, "Okay, you know what? Let me bring her out." And so she went into the back of the printing shop, and here she is, the glow in her face. She came down, and she had no idea who I am, what I look like, because she didn't see me. I saw her. Um, and here she is, she comes out, and I said, "Hi, I'm Chris, and I'm sorry for being the psycho." But I was just, I saw you, and you're just so beautiful, and I was wondering if I should send flowers or chocolate, and I think it got off to a really bad start, but I'd really love to get to know you, and to take you out for dinner and get to know you. And she said yes. She said yes. And from there, it was the beginning of our journey, right? Of our book and our story. And we dated for 5 years. And along the way, um, she made me a better man. So I had to start releasing the cancer in my life, my pride, uh, being obnoxious, being the guy that knows it all, and the street, the people I surround myself with, smoking. I smoked since I was 13 years old, and when I met her, I quit cold turkey. Um, you know, and she never asked me to quit. It was, she just hated the smell and she hated smokers. So in the beginning, I used to smoke like when I'm not with her, and then eventually just, I quit cold turkey. The why was so big, she was my why, and I quit cold turkey, but I still didn't let go of a lot of things, and I wanted to marry this woman, and I didn't have the money. I was broke. I lost all my money, and I spent all my money the 2 years that I was in the real estate, a year and a half, 2 years at this point, and um, and this is when the turning point was. Is my wife, a friend of mine, he offered me a position with Allstate insurance industry. And he said, Chris, you've been in three industries which are market sensitive, and it's out of your control, right? 2001 with the whole first terrorist attack that crushed the market. And the second was the mortgage industry, the whole subprime crash, out of my control. They got rid of the stated program, which was 85%, 90% of my customer base, out of my control. Real estate, another market sensitive industry, out of my control. So he had recommended, why don't you go into an industry that's not market sensitive? And so I gave it good thought. My wife and I, we prayed about it. And I didn't even have money to pay for my school. And I'll still remember this day so clearly. When I was in Wall Street, I had bought my Rolex, right, with the, mother of pearl diamond face and the diamond bezel, and that was just like the norm, right? Um, and I remember that I was trying to sell this to get some money to go to insurance school, and a friend of mine, one of my best friends, Wayne, he reached out to me and said, Chris, I heard you're selling your watch. And I said, yes, I am. And he said, I want to buy it. How much are you selling it for? And I said, oh, it's worth 7 or 8,000, but 5,000, that's what I'm looking for. It's desperate times, so I would take less. And he said, okay, great, I'll buy it. Let me get your bank account information. I'll wire you the money and you send me the watch. So I said, okay. Within a few days, the money came into my bank account, and I called him and I said, hey, I got the money. I need the address. I'm going to send you the watch. And he said, Chris, I heard you're going through some hard times. Um, I don't want the watch. You keep the watch, and I want you to keep the money, and I want you to get back on your feet because I believe in you. And you know, he was one of my groomsmen to my wedding, one of my best friends. And that was a pivotal point in my life, where I didn't even have 2 nickels to rub to go to the school, and I didn't know how, I didn't know why. But here, um, God started opening doors for me, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do this. And my wife and I's dream and vision was to um, open up schools um, and in third world countries and pour into children because we believe the children are the next generation. Um, and so we said, okay, once I build a book, it's going to build residual income, so I could be on the mission field um, three months or 6 months out of the year. And so I said, okay, I'm going to really do this. Um, and so I did. So I took the leap of faith, um, and I did insurance. That was the beginning of my insurance career. Um, and still, I still held on to a couple things. I hung out with, um, friends that sold drugs, partied, and I try to do everything I can to make a few dollars. And at this point, here's the woman of my dreams, and I want to propose. The wedding cost a fortune, the ring, right? And I didn't have any of this stuff. I didn't have the finances for this stuff. And I thought, wow, I might lose this woman. So I started getting desperate, and I joined a company also called World Ventures. It was a network marketing business as a travel club, and at the time, a friend of mine, Bernard Cho, uh, rest in peace, Bernard, his soul. Um, he was a drug dealer, and he had asked me um, to uh, take a ride with him to make a few dollars. And to me, I needed the money, right? And so, you don't think of the consequences, but I went with him, and and we went to a supermarket, and these 2 kids that we didn't know, I didn't know, I'd never met them in my life. They get into my car, um, and Bernard and the kids start talking about negotiating prices, um, and it was a setup. It was a setup. Bernard was set up, and they pulled out guns, and as soon as they did, just my instinct, they put a gun to my head and one to Bernard's head, and it was just my instinct. I opened the door. Um, I put my left foot out, and he pistol with me. You see, I don't have hair right here, and he pistol with me right in the head. He chased me out of the car, and I ran for my life, Marina. I ran for my life, and I just something told me to zigzag, like a football runner, and I just started zigzagging, and I ran into the supermarket. We were at the supermarket parking lot, and I ran in, and I heard gunshots go off, boom, 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 and I hid in the back of the supermarket, and and I didn't even know, but I was hit, and I got shot. I felt the drip down my back, and so I put my hand in my back, and I saw blood, and I said, "Oh my God, I've been shot." And so there was a woman going by, And I said, please, can I use your phone? Can I use your phone? I've just been shot. And so I called 911, and within 1 or 2 minutes, the police, I hear sirens and I hear police in the parking lot. And after about another minute or two, I thought it was safe to come out. And when I did, um, the first thing I see was Bernard laying on the floor. And I ran over to Bernard and I held him in my arms, and he was dead, and he had died. Um, yeah, that was tough. It was real tough. And and then we went to the hospital. Um, went to the hospital, and I remember lying in bed, um, and people came to visit me, and my friend JC, he was one of my best friends. He said to me, Chris, you know, you're serving two masters, and you can't serve two masters. Um, and it was the hardest thing that I heard. And all my other friends that Chris, get better, get well soon. They give me words of encouragement. But here, JC said the most realist thing to me. But I was mad at him at the time. I didn't take his word at face value. And in my mind, I was like, how could you say something so cruel? Um, I almost died. The bullet went. It was about a quarter inch from my spine. I almost got paralyzed. It pierced my right lung. It was punctured, and I had blood in my right lung. And I remember they put a tube in my lung, and it was the most excruciating pain to pump out the blood. And here I am lying in bed, with the tube in me, and and you couldn't say like get better or everything will be okay, but they say that your real friends will tell you, how it is, right? And he said the realest thing to me, which was biblical. And he said, you were serving two masters, Chris. I had one foot in the world and one foot in the street. And um, and it took me a long time to understand that. So I love the picture of golf. When you first start golfing, it's everyone has like 20 things wrong with their swing. And to be a great golfer, it's about eliminating one thing at a time. So then you have 19 things wrong. Eight, it's first just your back, then your elbows, and your shoulder. You can't move your head, right? And that's what it was in my life. Um, I was eliminating all the cancers in my life. Um, and with my wife, at the time, we were just engaged, right? And, here my wife said, well, this is just crazy. Like, who are you, right? Like, I have to tell my parents. And I was like, please don't tell your parents. They'll never approve of me, right? And so selfish, And my wife was brought up in such a royal uh, family that she did, and she thought, and I thought that her parents are back in Korea, and my father-in-law is a pastor, and I thought that he would say, "Pack your stuff, come home." Or if it were me, Marina, I would get on the first plane out to New York, and I would help my daughter pack her stuff and say, "You're coming home. Enough is enough." You know. But graciously, her father said, "Well, I believe in him. Give him another chance." And she was like, "What? What do you mean, Dad? What are you talking about?" Like, even she thought that her father was just gonna not approve of this wedding and just pull her away from me. Because, Marina, if that were my daughter and I have a 2-year old, I'm sorry, but I would do that, you know? And, that was by grace. And he still approved of me. And we got married June 2nd, 2013. Uh, and yeah, and, here we are today, stronger than ever. Um, and that was really the wake up call. Um, I want to share with people that it shouldn't be where, you know, you almost died, to a point where you almost died to change, right? Change is what it takes, and it starts with you from the inside out, not from the outside in. And all my life, I try to change it from the outside in. But then I realized that I wasn't working on my golf swing. Um, but after I met my wife, um, that was the turning point of working on that swing. And after that moment, it was, you know, um, I became a PGA golfer. Back to you, Marina.
Wow, Chris, I always believe that when you have love, you have everything. And I know that you become a single soul, but you still inhabit two bodies. And love is creating this extra level of spirituality and connection with each other that you'll never feel alone again, ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Your wife gave you strength and courage to live a life where was no room for life, where it was nothing humanly right, where people were abusing each other, people were killing each other. And a couple of times throughout your history, you escaped death, and you escaped the most the most tragic moment of your life, and slaloming through those moments in your life, very very hard moments, you managed to become the person you're designed to be. Because you see, Chris, I really believe that is born with a life purpose, and you can't escape it. I know we have choices, and it is by choice, but throughout your life there will be situations and circumstances where you have to fight, you have to run for your life, like you did. And while our listeners perhaps never been um, dealing with tough people, or maybe they never been in love yet, I think what we could all learn from your story is that life is worth living.
Mm,
And look at you now. You become this amazing human being with a gigantic heart, and you are ready to serve the world, and the world is ready for you. Just sometimes I wonder, what is the lesson you have to learn? Because it's never about, even if you lose your life, it's never about losing. It's all about learning. It's always about um, winning or learning. You cannot lose. So I wonder, what is the lesson you took from that moment when your friend told you you are serving two masters?
right, right. So it was really, um, they said if you fly with pigeons, you're a pigeon, right? You need to fly and soar with eagles. So I started distancing myself from people who were toxic, you know, toxic relationships, right? Um, with more nourishing relationships, um, people that would lift me up, people smarter than me, because I was ready to be coachable. I was ready to learn, and I needed more. So, reading great books, um, listening to great speakers, surrounding myself with good friends, with good values, great families. Um, and that was one of the main things that really changed my life. And being surrounding yourself with those kind of people really gave me the opportunity that I never once had. Um, for example, Promise Kids Foundation. I sit on the board of Promise Kids Foundation, and Tim Harris, Pastor Tim, he had asked me if I could help and serve on his board of directors. So I said, oh, it's an honor. It's an honor because this was my wife and I's dream, our passion and our vision. Promise Kids Foundation, we build schools and churches in third world countries. We built one in Nicaragua, one in Cambodia. We sponsor 100 kids in Nicaragua and 50 kids in Cambodia, where we educate, we feed, we nourish them spiritually. Um, we give them mentorship and guidance. We give them hope that they wouldn't have once had. Um, and so um, that was the most important thing, which was really um, the core people of who you surround yourself with. And Rocky, right? He said it well in the movie. It's not about how hard the punches. It's about how hard you could take the punches and get back up and never give up. You got to be hungry.
Wow, Chris, I'm afraid that's all we have for today. And I'm sure our listeners can't wait for you to come back and start teaching us what it takes to be the winner of your own life. From both of us, until next time, is goodbye.
Bye, guys.